I feel like there is some apathy. Like, what can you do? The system has been in place where, in your words, cowardice has been rewarded. And it's just become almost like corporate America where you're rewarded for being a yes man. So how do we get out of this mess?
You're 100% right. One of the first reviews that just came out was on Real Clear Defense. And the critics' main critique of my book was that there's just so many problems. I don't understand how you could come at it. And that fundamental argument is just so flawed. Like, this is a professional journalist, and your assessment is, well, there's just so many failures that we can't do anything about it. Like, wrong. Like, he is wrong. Like, we have to start somewhere. We have to address failure. And another critique is always like, you're not going to be able to change it. You're just one guy. As soon as we start thinking like that, the system is already lost. It's such a defeatist mentality. And I refuse to think like that. I believe this is America and we can all make a change, and the power of the government comes from the people. But that is hinged upon us finding a voice and not being scared to speak out.
He is fresh off writing his book, Crisis of Command, Trust and Confidence in America's Generals and Politicians, How We Lost Trust and Confidence in America's Generals and Politicians. And if you don't remember, Stuart Scheller is the one that went viral for speaking out against the horrific Afghan withdrawal. Thanks for coming on, Stuart.
Absolutely, Christy. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So, man, what a wild ride you have been on. It was like, basically, I had just gone into independent journalism from being a propaganda puppet traditional news anchor, and saw this video, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I saw that it had went viral after that. And I've been following along your journey, and seems like it's been like ups and downs. Like, there were times where it seemed like you were kind of rolling along with being quiet, and then boom, you'd come out again with like this long, so beautifully written thoughts that so many others were thinking, and you were that voice for them. I mean, I like to champion what I'm doing now is trying to be a voice for the voiceless. You have been a voice for the voiceless, even for those that have been critical. So kind of take me through your journey and what it's been like.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I've been kind of watching your journey as well. So I'm really happy to get the opportunity to talk to you today. Book came out today. So a big day for me. I'm excited. The book's doing really well. And it was important for me to write it. So my journey on 26 August last year, I posted a video. The Afghanistan evacuation was the punctuation mark on really 2 decades of bad decisions and failure, bad policy, in my opinion. It's something I had been studying. I'd been in the Marine Corps for 17 years as an infantry officer. And so I posted a video demanding accountability because I knew no senior leaders would not only assume accountability, but that they would try and spin it as a victory. And that's what really I knew was going to be the gut punch, because service members deserve timely and accurate assessment of failure. So I made the video, and then I got fired immediately, bullied, and I just had a decision to make. I could quietly go into the darkness, apologize, and take my beatings, or I could stand by my statements and continue to make statements and really apply pressure. And that's the route I took, and it escalated very quickly, culminated with me going into solitary confinement, coming out, getting court-martialed, and then submitting my resignation short of my retirement. And, you know, Christy, you and I have had a bunch of conversations. I've never wanted to all I want to do is make America better. You know, I kind of just wanted to disappear on the farm and didn't know if I wanted the public eye. But at the same time, I'm a warrior and I want to leave a better America for my kids. And so I was trying to really struggling with what I wanted to do. And what was most important was I told my story, because I think it's important. But then once I tell my story, it's like, then what? And so right now, for the next 6 months, I'm booked on a book tour that'll take me to the holidays. And then after that, I'll reassess and figure out what I do next.
I think what's most fascinating about you is you can tell that you're just a very real person, and we could actually sense like the internal struggles that you were going through. Like, I would notice that you would be off of the platforms for a while, and then boom, you would suddenly appear again. You could tell it was an internal struggle for you. And I think that many people like myself can appreciate the honesty that came with that. But what was that like? Because sometimes you would see people that would come out against you that you wouldn't even expect, just for the sheer of like, well, there's, you know, precedent to follow, and this isn't what you do. Even if he's right, he should not have spoken up and he needs to shut up. Like, I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, there's so many different arguments. I try to address some of the counter arguments in the end of my book. And so one of them was just that, this guy's got 15 minutes of fame. We just hope he shuts up soon. And it just seemed like I wasn't going away. I believed in what I said. And unfortunately, I'm fairly intelligent, right? So I can string together some thoughts. I've reflected on this a lot. And so I think what stings the most is when someone challenges the system and can do so in an insightful and well thought out manner. And then also as someone of an aggressive warrior, right? Like it has courage. And I think people right now are just starving for that. They're starved for leadership. They're starved for courage. And so when I would make insightful comments, more people would come to me. And to your other question, well, we agree with what Stu said, but the method in which he did it wasn't correct. And I don't understand that logic. If you can agree that the system is failing, why would you remain silent and not acknowledge the failures within the parameters of a failing system if inevitably that's going to lead to the destruction and implosion of the system that really is defending everything that we believe and hold to be true? And so I just looked at these other people that indicted me for the method and thought, I kind of came to the conclusion that senior field grade officers that said I agree with the content but disagree with the delivery, that was their way of protecting themselves because ultimately they didn't have the courage to do the same thing. Because ultimately, if you agree with the content of the statements, then you should be saying the same thing.
Absolutely. And the other part of this is that I think spoke to your honesty and humility is, of course, like clockwork. Anytime anyone steps out of the narrative, even a little bit, people are so quick to be like, oh, he must love Trump. And I kind of loved it when you were kind of like actually gave your criticisms of Trump, because it just showed you this has nothing to do with either side. Like they try and make everything about that. But although it did seem like there was like a little bit of a, I don't know, we'll call it a misunderstanding between you and the former president, it seems like that was kind of resolved. Do you want to speak on that at all?
Yeah, sure. I mean, President Trump is a human being. His foreign policy decisions are very good, but as a human, he's not perfect. And it seems like if you ever point out something that's not perfect, the hyperpolarization of the American society, if you were to offer a critique of like President Trump, then people take that personally because they, in a lot of ways, have been attacked by the other side of America. And I guess the point I was trying to make in the one statement I made when I attacked the last 5 presidents is the whole system is failing. But where we're at societally, you can't critique any party's leader without everyone taking it personally. And it was hard for some people to extrapolate and say, he's not making this personal about one president. He's attacking the system that has consistently failed. Now, I've since gone back and apologized to President Trump because he had the ability to speak out against me, and he almost did, and he restrained to help me out. And I really appreciated that. And so, I believe in Trump's policies, and I believe he may be the next president. But at the same time, when I was going through what I was going through, I wasn't making statements for political parties. I was making statements to try and illustrate that the system wasn't working.
Right. And to that end, there's so many people that have said, are rightfully so supportive of the military, but expect the military to come in and like save all of the craziness that we've seen. And what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think that there's an element of like, this might sound juvenile coming from me, but like good military and bad military? Like, I mean, that probably sounds completely absurd to you, but are there elements at play?
Yeah, I think the military system has drifted. I think it's systemic problems. I think the young enlisted and young company grade officers come in for very idealistic reasons, and the talent there is really the best the world has to offer in a lot of ways. But the problem is over a 40-year career, which is the amount of time it takes to make a 4-star general, these people become conditioned to please their bosses. And so when they get to the end of the road, when we want people to have courage and stand up for American values, the truth is these people have been conditioned to just tell people what they want to hear so that they can continue to advance in their careers. And so my theory is we need to sever the tie from pleasing a boss and make promotion in the military more of a performance-based standard. But the Americans have been conditioned to lionize the military, and the purpose of my book was written to the Americans so that they can read it and see the fundamental problems that are taking place in the military. So what this story does is it walks you through my career of 17 years, and then it transitions into, once I posted that video, what happened to me. And so I tell a story of my personal experiences that illustrate the shortfalls of the system. And we talk about accountability a lot. Accountability is important to signal from Americans to military leaders that it's important that you win wars. And if you don't, we're going to hold you accountable. But what it doesn't do is address why they're failing in the first place. And that's what I try to explore in the book. And I tell it in a very fun way to read it, for lack of a better term, because people want an emotional connection to the characters. You get that in my story. I'm completely transparent. I tell what I went through with my family hardships. And what it does, though, is it reinforces the changes that need to take place. And I outline a roadmap, one proposal for how we could get this train back on the track.